Welcome to Aligned and Local, the podcast where real stories meet real impact. I'm Kristina Irvine, local realtor and your host. And this show is all about shining a light on incredible business owners, community leaders, and change makers who make our neighborhoods thrive. And we're not just talking about business, we're talking about purpose, passion, and the challenges and triumphs that shape the journey. So if you love supporting local and believe in community over competition, and if you're ready to hear stories that inspire and connect, then you are in the right place. So let's dive in. Today, welcome Joanie Ackerman from Downsizing by Design, an A+ accredited senior move management company that has been helping seniors downsize, organize, and move with care and simplicity for over 12 years in the Chicago area. Joanie and her team specialize in guiding clients through every step of the transition, from sorting what to keep to coordinating donations, selling, or disposing of the rest. They handle packing, moving, unpacking, and settling in, taking the hassle out of what can often feel like an overwhelming process. If you or someone you love is considering a move but feeling stuck in the where do I begin phase, this episode is for you. Joanie is here to share expert tips, heartwarming stories, and a wealth of knowledge on how to make downsizing a positive and seamless experience. Joanie, welcome to the show. Okay. So I'd love to start by getting to know the why behind your business. So if you could share your story about how you started Downsizing by Design and kind of what inspired you to do that.
Yeah. So I would love to say that I'm the one that started this business, but I'm actually the founder was actually Pat Keplinger.
Mhm.
She's founded this business back in 2012, so almost 13 years ago. And then she brought me on about 5 years ago when her business was really booming. And guess what? I started on day one of COVID. And then all of a sudden, guess what happened to the senior industry in everyone's world, right?
Right.
The middle of March of 2020. But so we'll talk about that in a little while. But Pat is actually the founder of this business. And I can tell you, she founded this business really because there was a need. And so she was moving her mom into a senior community. And all of the logistics and all of the stress and all of the headache that goes into how do I help her downsize? How do I help her physically move? Both of them were a little bit older. Obviously, her mom was. What resources to get? She didn't even know where to turn, right? So it was a really long process and difficult process. And she said, there must be somebody out there that can provide this kind of service for seniors, especially and their families. So she started Downsizing by Design really as a ministry to kind of help these folks. My emails keep popping in to kind of help folks through this whole transition process because she realized by herself she was finding it difficult to find resources on her own. So she started this business very small, probably started with just a handful of associates, and it continued to grow. She brought me on. She has since retired, and now I'm the general manager of the business. So happy and lucky to have found it, and
Yeah.
it's a really great fit for me.
That's really cool. What was your history prior to working with Downsize by Design?
Yeah, so I did not come from this industry at all. I actually came from the apparel industry. So I
Mhm.
worked in the apparel industry, gosh, 25 years or so. Then left my job, or actually, it all got disbanded basically. And so it was a reduction in force. And I was at a turning point in my life, right? At that point, I was kind of became the full-time caregiver for my elderly mom, was in a senior community almost every day. And so I got to know those folks and kind of was walking the walk, right, with my mom through this transition and through everything she was going through. And so I felt like at that point when I was looking for a new role, it was time to pivot. What could I be doing? I didn't want to go into the same industry. It was time for a change. And this opportunity just kind of presented itself because I was in the senior community every day. And so it just became like this aha moment, that this is a good fit. And this is something that means I can provide service, something really meaningful at this stage of my life. And so it kind of just became my new path.
Yeah. You mentioned that's just a really beautiful story, by the way. Isn't it really great when the stars align like that, where it's just kind of
It's
like,
it's
whoops,
so
guess
true.
this is where I'm supposed to be?
And you know what? People in this industry, almost everyone has a similar story. They're here
Yeah.
because they have gone through this walk, and
Yeah.
now they're, here to provide a service because it's just a very compassionate industry, and there's such a need out there.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the company was founded as a ministry to serve seniors with obviously this very emotional life transition. How does that show up specifically in how you serve each person you get to work with?
Well, gosh, every client is different. And that's how we approach this business is that everything is very personal. So there is no one size fits all in
Mhm.
this type of transition. So what we do is we meet with the client. Very often, our referral sources come from the senior communities in this area, or from realtors like yourself that are working with seniors. And it's not only seniors we work with, but I'd say the majority, our niche, is the senior population, because they're just in more need of services than say a younger person who might be moving or downsizing. But all of those referral sources reach out to us, and so we then set up a free consultation. So it's our chance to go in and just put their mind at ease, saying, there are services out here to help you through this whole transition, because usually, at that point, they might know they need to move, whether it's a physical health issue that is necessitating a move to a senior community, or maybe just to downsize, or it just might be time, right? To not have that four bedroom, huge 3,500 square foot home to take care of any longer. But it's more of a mindset for them. They're feeling frustrated, they're feeling blocked. Like, okay, I've lived here for 30, 40 years. What do I do now? I can't even see a way forward because there's just so many things to do before I actually move. And so this initial consultation meeting is to put their mind at ease, saying, okay, we're here, we can walk this transition with you. And these are all of the services that we provide. And so it kind of helps them feel unstuck. And it's almost
Mhm.
like when you go into these meetings, you can kind of see their shoulders just start to relax, because all of a sudden there's a path, and there are solutions for them, and there are services and people that are really caring, that want to help them through this transition.
That's really sweet. What do you think are some of their biggest fears or challenges that the seniors and their families are facing when they're facing this kind of change?
You know, it's a hard transition. I mean, moving for anybody, isn't it considered like one of the top stressors in your life, even if you're
Yeah.
young? Imagine if you're, 80, 85, 90 years old and you've lived in this, it becomes even a bigger transition because they feel like they're losing their independence. They feel like they're losing their control over their life. And so very often it's not a transition they want to be making. It's something that they need to be making. So right off the bat, that's really, really hard. And so you have to recognize that difficulty and kind of be there with them and understand that situation. And then that is when you can kind of discuss some of the ways that we can help them, or how we can help them through that transition, how to take away the roadblocks to
Mhm.
make this transition a little bit less stressful for them.
Yeah. How do you think or like, I guess, what has your experience been with how the current real estate market is impacting the pressure that's already on a situation like this with prices being so high for them to, like, I know a lot of the people I come into contact with who are in a place of considering downsizing,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's an increase in cost for them to downsize.
You know, um, I feel like, when I started this business, it was the height of COVID, like I mentioned earlier. And so then it was difficult, right? Because people didn't want to move, even though they probably should be moving, but they didn't want to move into a lockdown facility, right? And so
Right.
what we did was offer them choices of,
Mhm.
we can help you downsize and prepare for when the time comes. So we
Mhm.
can do more organizing and what we call aging in place, helping them overcome some obstacles to help them live comfortably but safely in their home. So maybe things like downsizing and reorganizing the way they live in their current space while that turmoil was happening, during COVID. Now, I mean, the housing market, there's just not enough on the market. There's just not enough inventory, is what we were hearing. And I'm sure you'll agree,
Yeah.
on the market. And so when they do decide to sell, it usually sells really quite quickly for them. And that becomes a little bit of an obstacle because they weren't really quite ready, and it's
Right.
coming up much quicker than they thought. And so very often we work really closely with the realtor partners because we can help them by downsizing, sorting, packing. We can pack pretty much their home that they were moving into their smaller unit within a day. So we pack them. The next day we're moving them. We coordinate with the movers. And then after the move is usually when we'll come back and offer our clean out services or clear out services, where we will pack up what is donatable and what is can give it new life to somebody else in need. And we work with many charities and donation companies in the area, and they will come and pick up for free. And then what is left, we will work on whether it's an estate sale or whether there's a junk haul that needs to be happen. So we work within the time frame of the realtor and the closing dates so that we can kind of help get all that done in a tight little time frame. And that's really hard to do on your own, but it's kind of the
Yeah.
logistics that we work with. And that really helps them through that transition. It's the timing because things sell quickly right now.
Yeah, well, and I'm a really big fan of like getting clear on where someone wants to go long term, right? And then changing the temperature 1 degree at a time to get them there so that it doesn't feel so painful or uncomfortable. So like as you're saying this, what I hear in my head is going like, "Oh, like connect you now so they can start working on that. That way when the time is right, they're ready." Versus like all the high pressure of the real estate market or even, facilities in the area, a lot of them are on wait lists and things like that. And so just kind of that readiness and the kind of taking the pressure off of it sounds like something that feels really good to people.
It is, and they have control. Again, it's making sure that they are the client and it's their move and they should feel like they have control of that. And so when you start with that downsizing process, and that is a hard transition, they're making hard decisions on what they're going to keep and what they're going to let go of.
Mhm.
That is the most emotional piece of this transition, I think, letting go of all of their treasures, that mean the most to them and their memories. I always say, keep the memories, not the stuff. Stuff
Yeah.
keeps you bound and it creates stress when you're have a lot of clutter around you. When you kind of work through that process, then they become more ready for the next phase.
I'm going to use that line with my mother-in-law. Keep the memories, not the stuff. That is a
It's
thing
so
we're battling right now for sure. She's not in a place of moving, but we're easing her toward the idea of having conversations like this. And so at some point you may be getting that connection for sure.
It's so
Um,
funny. I mean, and isn't it true that as a family member, and I remember this with my mom, you're their family member. And so you both have memories on things that you've grown up in that house, or, you have memories of the things within, and you might have a quick understanding of what they should let go of, but it's different
mhm.
for them. And very often that causes some friction within the adult children. And we are the company that can come in and kind of be the liaison between that. So then the kids, the adult children, can just be supporting them emotionally and be their daughter rather than being the one to force those decisions, not force, but be the one to kind of make those hard decisions with them. And it's a really good release for both of them. We've people say you've saved our family, which is, exaggerated, of course, but it really helps
Uh,
kind of having somebody there to
yeah,
do that work.
I don't know that that's as exaggerated as you think. I think if you met my family, you'd be my personal family, not my partner's family. Like
Yeah.
you'd be like, I really do save families.
I know.
Uh, it's an interesting situation, and I was actually having this conversation with my partner the other day. They like our parents' age group. A lot of them lived either through the Great Depression or really my grandparents, but like a lot of them lived either through the Great Depression or were raised by parents who had that mindset. And so they hold on to things, like all the things, because they're afraid to be without. And then you go, I'm very, very anti stuff, which makes it a little bit of an interesting dance. But like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can understand the emotional attachment to the belongings and why it's so difficult for people. Um, okay, so if you're helping people go through a lifetime of belongings, then how do you help them decide kind of what to keep versus what to keep the memory of only?
Yeah. Well, it's what we call our sorting and right sizing service. And so we have
Yeah.
people on our team that kind of specialize in that, really helping them walk through and going through literally shelf by shelf, door by door, closet by closet, if you will, and making decisions on once you know where you're downsizing to,
Mhm.
we kind of will help them. What we do is start really with a floor plan. And once you kind of say you're moving from your 4 bedroom home and you're moving down into a 1 bedroom apartment in a senior living community, that's quite a change in
Right.
environment, right? So what we do is we start, and I think one of the best bang for your buck is to do this customized floor plan. So we'll come in and we'll measure the furniture that mean the most to you and that you hope to live with you into your new space. We measure the new apartment over in the new space, and we create a digitized floor plan in 2D and in 3D. So it makes it really easy for them to see how their furniture will or will not fit into those spaces. And then we help them make those decisions, on what will fit best, what means the most to them. And then once that floor plan is set, you kind of see them say, okay, like it helps change their mindset of this will be my new home with these surroundings. Then they can make decisions on letting go, have a donation company pick up, but also say it's a China hutch. If you're not bringing that with you, what are you going to do with the contents that are inside? Can those be relocated to another storage piece within the, furniture pieces you are bringing? Or do you need to make some decisions and let go of the contents as well? It starts the whole conversation, but once they know what will fit, it makes it so much easier for them. It doesn't seem like such a huge task. It's becoming now more of, we're walking that step by step with them. So floor
Yeah,
planning is a really great way to start that mindset.
I love that very much. Obviously, just the move as a whole can start to feel unsettling. So,
Yeah.
what do you feel like you do that's most important that leaves them feeling very settled and like they're at home on the day that they've already moved?
Yeah. Move day, it's a very chaotic and very long and very hectic, very emotional day for them, right? And so what we do is we're there bright and early before the movers arrive on move day morning. We've already packed them most likely. We've packed and labeled all of their boxes and we've labeled all of their furniture according to the floor plan. So we're ready to go. We come in the morning and we pack up all the last minute things that the client needed to sleep there the night before. So we pack up all their bedding, any lamps that they needed for light. We pack up their last minute kitchen items. We unload their refrigerator and their freezer, right? Anything that they needed to have the night before. All of that last minute packing that morning. Then we oversee the movers' activities. Everything is labeled for them. And then we kind of oversee how they load the truck so that when it gets to the final destination, it can be unloaded and we can start unpacking as they're continuing to unload the furniture. So we can start that process pretty immediately when the
Yeah.
truck pulls up to the senior community or wherever they're moving. And then a team will be there unpacking. Once we're done unpacking, we take away all the boxes, all the packing materials. So then all that's left is their beautiful little home fully unpacked. Their bed is made, their kitchen's unpacked, their bathroom is set. And what we like to pride ourselves on quite honestly, whether or not you have a memory issue or not, we try to take pictures of the way that you had it set up in your previous home. Say you have a curio cabinet with all of your little tchotchkes the way that you like them, and that's what makes it feel like home to you. We try to set that up exactly the way it was in your new home so that it feels like home because things are in similar spaces. If you kept a lamp and a glass of water and a book next to your bedside, that's the way you're going to see it after we've unpacked. So
I just
we
got
try to
goosebumps.
do those special things because it is their new home.
That is so sweet. That's very, very thoughtful. And I could
Yeah.
tell, like, just through this conversation, the amount of processes you have in place to really kind of check all those boxes and
Yeah.
really make it easy for them. It's really, really special for sure. Um,
It really is what sets us apart. I think it's the team. I
yeah,
mean, it's not me. We do all of the logistics behind the scenes, but it's this team of people that this is what we hear at the end of every move. I could not have done this without you. Happy tears and hugs. And some people say, I wish I could add you to my Christmas card list. I mean, those are the highest, praise that you could have. You are feeling
yeah,
like you've become part of their family. You've made this job a little bit easier. They feel like they've been taken care of, not
yeah.
just moved. So
It
that's
matters.
important. Yeah, it
Yeah, it
matters.
really does matter. My very first transaction when I started selling real estate, so actually I grew up in apartments. I sold my mom her first house. And I'd
Yes.
never owned one at the time. My brother had never owned one. He was my third transaction. But like you get this different, deeper perspective of what you want that transaction to feel like,
Yeah.
even never having done one. I remember being on her closing day so disappointed. Like this is what this like she just bought her first house. This is what this looks like, right? And I'm really grateful it was my mom. I feel like I would have felt it regardless, but I think the depth of what I felt from that um was there because it was my mom, you know?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it kind of shapes how you want people to experience these things. And all those things you're saying are those are exactly it, right? Those are things
Yeah.
that make you think as a realtor, what can I do to,
Right.
in situations where maybe somebody isn't going to work with you. Of course, it'd be great if everyone did because it sounds like such an incredible service, but a first time home buyer or, whoever it is, like what can I add in that I didn't already think of that
Right.
kind of creates that for them because that's
Yeah.
pretty special.
Yeah.
Um, do you have, obviously you've worked with a ton of people over the last several years. Do you have a favorite story or like your most heartwarming experience or anything you'd like to share?
Gosh. Um, so many. One comes to mind. This poor man and his wife had to cancel their move because their house fell. You'll appreciate this as a realtor. Their
Mhm.
sale fell through not once, not twice, not
Oh
three times,
no.
3 times. And so we kept having to, cancel what we're doing, moving the date, moving the date, moving the date. They had to find a new place to live because that was no longer available. It was like the perfect storm of things. And these were the such special people. So anyway, we kept having to change all of our staff, trying to fit them in whenever we could. Finally, they sold the house. We had to
Yeah.
make a really quick turnaround. We made it work. Got them moved in, and he was one of those people that said, I wish he wrote a nice review for us, and just a heartwarming letter to our company saying, how much it meant that we were able to walk this all the way through with him, whereas we didn't have to, is what he said. But of course we did. You almost developed that relationship along the way. And he's the one that said, I wish I could add you all to my Christmas card list. And that just stuck in my head because I'm like, then you've made a difference. So that was one of my favorite stories. It was a hard one because it was a very lot of changes and a lot of logistical details, but it
You
ended
have
up
to
being great. Great.
I used to tell my team members, I had a pretty big team there for a while and eventually will again, but I used to tell them all the time, this is their experience. We just get to be a part of it.
Yeah,
And so
for
it
sure.
doesn't matter what we're feeling or what we're thinking or how hard it is or every decision they want to make that is the opposite of what we know they should do, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If we've educated them, we've made sure they understood, we've done the uncomfortable things like repeat ourselves when we're afraid it's going to upset
Yeah.
them to
Yeah.
make sure that they're clear. The rest of it's theirs to have. And I don't know, what you believe spiritually. We don't need to go there, but I personally can't help but believe in the situation like what you're talking about. He just wasn't meant to go where he was going to go, right? He
Hmm.
went where he was supposed to go when all was
Yeah.
said and done, but to get them to understand that in the moment of chaos, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna
Tough.
happen. But to be
It
able to
was.
love and support him through that is such a gift, and
Yeah.
it is difficult. It makes your job harder too, right? And it's
Yeah.
okay because it serves such a big purpose and makes such a big difference.
Thank you. Yeah, we feel that way too. Sometimes their family isn't nearby, and sometimes we kind of step into that role emotionally for
Yep.
them because there's nobody here at the moment.
Yeah, it's really special. I love it. You're an incredible human being. I'm excited that I got to meet you for
You're
this.
sweet.
So, so a couple of things. Number one, I've heard we a few times. When you say we, who is we?
When I say we, I mean our team. Like I always say this about our company, and we're a team of about 20 people. And we have everything from myself and our office manager, but we also have our team leads, our senior team leads who kind of lead each project. Every move that we do, there will be a senior team leader as well
Mhm.
as staff members to help get everything accomplished. We also have our senior relocation consultant, I guess is her title, but she's the one who that's the first person the client will meet. So she does those free initial consultations. She's the one that comes in and explains the services, makes them feel like there is a solution for you. And this is how we would approach your project. She's the one who walks through their home with them to understand, really get to know them, their why they have to move, what is the scope of work that has to happen. And she begins the process of creating that estimate for them. So there's a big team involved, right? All of us have our part into making sure that the end result is very personalized. for them, but it's not just one person. So I'm not the face of the company. I guess I am today, but it's really the team that makes the difference.
I love it. In my heart, you're the face of the company, so
Well,
we'll just go with
thank
that
you.
one. How
Thank you.
far in advance should somebody, if somebody's thinking about downsizing sometime, how far in advance should they give you a call?
Well, they can call anytime because even if they're just thinking about the sorting and downsizing and how to find solutions or find, donation companies or junk removal companies, or if they want an estate sale, we have an estate sale division in our sister company. So there are options that we
Yeah,
can help them with. So that can start today, right? Doesn't matter when you're moving. Those things can start, and I recommend it earlier the better.
same.
Um, During my seminars that I do, I always give people tips and tricks on you can go home this afternoon and start the right sizing process yourself. And here are some tips to help you get started. So I love to educate people on to empower them to do some things on their own, but understand that if you feel stuck or if you're feeling frustrated, there are companies like us that can help you as well and provide those services.
Yeah. Um, for those listening who may have aging parents or loved ones, what are some of the signs that it might be time to start the downsizing conversation?
I think sometimes it's physical, right? They may have had falls. They may not be able to maneuver stairs. They may have a laundry room that's in the basement and that up and down on a daily basis. So those physical reasons and also physically taking care of a home, if they're in a single family home, can be a very big challenge. So there are the costs involved in hiring somebody to do those things on a regular basis rather than maybe moving to a senior community where all of that is taken care of, right? So there's that. There's also the um there there's, I guess it's physical as well, but there could be signs of memory loss. There could be signs that are just mentally not able to take care of themselves anymore. Maybe they've recently lost their spouse and that's changed the way they function within that space that they're living in. Very often, loneliness is a big piece of what makes people decline. And so we hear it all the time. Once they've moved into a senior community, whether they're alone or not, even with a spouse, almost everybody, my mom included, said, I should have done this 5 years ago, you know, because they've waited too long. They didn't want to give up the independence. But what they were missing was the socialization and the environment and the activities, things that keep you young, things that keep you moving, right? Those
Yeah,
are all such benefits that people don't necessarily embrace right away. But everybody says afterward, I should have done this earlier.
I love that so much. I know you mentioned offering a free gift to make this transition easier for our listeners. What's that?
Free consultation. So we come in, we offer our time and our guidance and a move plan and an estimate to let you know how we can help you.
Yeah.
And the good thing is all of our services are a la carte. So in other words, we will talk with you about all the solutions that we know you need to have to accomplish this move. If family's around and they can do some of it, great. And then we will just do whatever it is that of the services that you need. Maybe just the packing and unpacking, and not the clean out portion, or vice versa. So it's really nice to offer those choices.
I happen to know that you have some fun event coming up in April. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we sure do. So Villa St. Benedict is one of the communities that we work in regularly. They're such a lovely community, and they offer independent living as well as assisted living, memory care. They even have villas on their property, which allows them to move into really like a single family home on the perimeter of their community, which then they can go inside for meals. They still have all of the activities and socialization, but they have a single family unit kind of on the outside. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
And they're quite roomy, actually. They're lovely villas. But even even the units that are inside offer just the single family, or not single family, one bedroom, two bedroom options that allow them to expand and make those decisions on their own. So we're going there and meeting with some folks that are considering Villa St. Benedict as their option for moving in. And it's so great to meet people who are kind of on the fence, knowing what should my next step be and kind of looking for resources, looking for maybe motivation and
Yeah.
what should my next step be and how can I get there? And I know that you're going to be there as well to offer that whole educational piece on the real estate side.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think people really benefit. So they can, of course, reach out to get more information for that. And
Sure.
then finally, where can people find you and connect with your team or learn more about downsizing by design?
Yeah, you can go to our website
Mhm.
at www.downsizingbydesign.com.
Mhm.
That is probably the best way. You can reach out to us directly. There's an email and a phone number on that website that you can call us directly. It's
Mhm.
easy to set up a free consultation with our senior consultant. It's really the best way. We're even, able to talk through with you on the phone. We've patched in adult children on FaceTime or on Zoom if they'd like to be there with you for that consultation. Maybe they live a couple states away, and that's just a way to get everybody involved. So it's really the best way is to start with that initial phone call. We'll ease your mind, I promise, and make you feel as comfortable as possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else you wanted to share that we didn't already ask or talk about?
One thing I didn't mention when we talked, I mean, I don't know, it's listed on this flyer as I'm looking at it, is we're part of NASM, and I'm not sure if you're familiar what NASM is. It's the National Association of Senior Move Managers. So there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies just like ours across the
Mhm.
country, and we belong to this national organization. We are A plus accredited within that organization, which is the highest level of accreditation. And that just means, there's ongoing education, ongoing certification within our industry to keep up with what's happening, to keep up with our skill set, to make sure we're training our associates correctly and that we're running legitimate businesses. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have that core education piece in that community of people. We often, maybe somebody's moving across the country, right? And so we can tag, and connect with a senior move manager who's living in California. They can do one side of the move, have the interstate movers come here, and we'll do the unpacking and the floor planning and the end of the move here, or vice versa. We
Yeah.
do that quite often.
I love that.
I think just know that there are people out there that care and that's how we approach our business.
Yeah, it's very special. And you can see it. You
Thank
can
you.
hear it in every single thing you say, which is pretty special. Thank you for joining me on Aligned and Local. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, connected, and even more in love with the amazing businesses and people that make our community so special. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your support helps spread these stories even further. And remember, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or refinance, or just want to connect with a network of amazing local businesses, I'm always here to help. Let's keep elevating local voices and strengthening our community together.